in which you honor the idea of giving thanks and appreciation and gratitude. Not that you cannot do that every day, not that it wouldn't be wise to do that every day, but we understand that you have seasons in which you focus on certain ideas, certain concepts, this being the one of giving thanks. So we will at this point remind you of something we have discussed before to make sure that you remind yourself to remain in alignment with the attitude of gratitude. And that is what we have termed before the AAA scenario of acknowledgement, appreciation, and allowance. The idea is in acknowledging what you do have, what you are appreciative of, what you are grateful for in your life, and not acknowledging the idea of the negative. In other words, not focusing on the idea of the things that you have in the past defined in a negative way, not that you cease to recognize when something may be negative, but that you remain in a state of grace, acknowledging what you do have rather than acknowledging what you do not have. And remaining in that state of gratitude and appreciation will again guide you and accelerate you in your life, where synchronicity can open up in miraculous and magical ways by staying in that state of appreciating all the connections you have, all of the things in your life, all of the people, all of the experiences, everything that you do have, that you do experience, that comes into your life, acknowledging it in a positive way as having a reason to be there, even the things you don't prefer, because again, you know it's got to be there for a reason. So I remind you of this day, so that you can stay in a state of thanks and allow yourself to feel the appreciation and gratitude for what is given to you, for what you have attracted in your life, and not focus on what you do not have. Because when you focus on what you do have, more will come, because you're opening the door for that. Focusing on what you do not have closes the door and prevents anything you truly need from coming forward to be recognized by you consciously. So allow yourself to remain in that state of acknowledgement, and then appreciate what you have, and then allow what needs to come, for it will be what you need at that moment, even again, if it's what you don't prefer. It's got to be there for a reason, and it may give you the opportunity to examine your belief systems, which is always important, and a main step in the formula that we have shared with all of you. Recognizing your beliefs, recognizing how to stay in a positive state so you can gain the benefit from whatever arrives, whatever shows up, whatever manifests in your life. For it is always capable of being used in a positive way. Again, we're not saying that you start calling negative things positive things. You can still observe something to be negatively oriented or negatively created from fear, from negative belief systems. But by staying in a positive state, even with that recognition, you allow yourself the opportunity to use what manifests in a positive way. And this is part of allowing the idea of what needs to come next to come more easily, more effortlessly. So acknowledging, appreciating, and allowing the AAA formula will help you remain in a state of grace and remind you every day of what you are blessed to experience in your life, and remind you why you chose this life, why you chose to have these experiences to accelerate your soul's experience of growth. For as you know, physical reality, being the experience of density, being the experience of time and space, affords you the opportunity to discover yourself from new points of view, new perspectives, in ways that cannot be done in spirit, in ways that allow you to accelerate more quickly, to grow more quickly, by facing the challenges that come into your life head on, more directly. And staying in that state of grace and staying in that state of appreciation and gratitude for what comes your way will allow you to work with it constructively, creatively, positively, and transform anything that comes to you, created out of negativity, into something that you can use and apply in your lives positively, and allow you more clarity, more sentience, more awareness, and more clear consciousness of what your life path and theme is all about, to allow you to be more of who you truly are, to align with your true core frequency and vibration. So this Thanksgiving and every day, allow yourself to acknowledge, appreciate, and allow your life to flow easily, effortlessly, joyfully, peacefully, and lovingly. And you will allow yourself to experience a growing sense of grace and gratitude and appreciation for all things in your life as they reflect more and more the state of being that is aligned with your Thanksgiving message. In return for allowing us to remind you of the AAA formula, so important in going into the window of open contact, in return, we ask now, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? You may begin with your questions and your
quality of water, and we should only drink the best to be in resonance with the high frequency. My question to you is there any advice you have for us how to make or to get this purest and clearest water what we need? Because it is really difficult in the most of the areas of this world, but also in all the countries where the water is nearly clear. So I would like to get an advice if you have any for that. Thank you very much for your help and your answer.
Your technology has provided you with filtration devices, and you could take advantage of many of them. In addition to that, you can meditate over the water. You can create certain harmonic resonances, meditative music and sounds that you can imbue into the vibrational pattern of the water to help align the water molecules in a kind of crystalline form that is also increasing its benefit to you when taken internally. You can take advantage of these things. It is simpler than you think.
Oh my gosh, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
How exciting to be here. How exciting to be here. Incredible to be here.
It is our passion and our pleasure as well. What would you like to discuss with us this day?
Well, my passion, my privilege has been to study human psychology. And so I wanted to give you my best understanding of human psychology. And you could just help me clarify to make sure I've got a good, clear understanding of what I call the 6 lenses of life, where the first lens I see as the bent space-time. So in other words, when I look up to the sky, it forms a kind of lens because the earth is very heavy and it, bends space-time around me. So my first lens is the sky. And then the second lens is, of course, my human eyes, which, detect. And of course, I'm looking at a lens right now and we have Wi-Fi, but I guess the idea is that perception to me is, bending all the different possibilities, whether it's Wi-Fi signals or light-based signals, and bends them into a single focus. So for me, that's the eye, and but there are various eye wearing glasses. So, but I think the key thing I want to say here is that it's equilibrium in the lowest state. So crystals are typically lowest, whereas when it goes into my brain, it's non-equilibrium at the lowest state. In other words, it's a time crystal. In other words, the ions are constantly dancing. Is that correct? In other words, it's a time crystal. In other words, if you look at the cross section of the brain, it actually looks like a crystal in a certain way because there's repeating patterns
Yes.
And okay, right. So, and then the next layer is somewhat more mysterious in this sense. This is a symbolic layer. In other words, these time crystals, the brain picks up signals and it creates symbols. And that's usually what we're talking about here, right? Is the symbolic layer, which, is the belief system, which you described as the colorings, of various. Okay, so, and then underneath that is the biological lens, which, the cells form different shapes and they read out different parts of the genetic code, where form follows the function. In other words, the form of the cell focuses on different parts of the readout of the genetic signal, which create in terms of kind of lens, because certain cells, again, they have a certain shape that sort of focuses on certain elements. And I think for me, it's like the core frequency. I think you've talked about it in terms of like we are our DNA, and that there's a certain
Yes.
core frequency to our DNA. Okay, great. And then below that is the atomic lens. In other words, the mass of the atoms is, of course, in the center, and so there's a bending of the probability, so that the probability wave kind of has a certain bend to it. So again, so it's 6 stacked lenses.
What about spirit? What about the seventh?
Well, that's where I am. That's where I am. That's the self. In other words, right? Or in other words, I am the light that's moving through all of the 6 lenses.
Yes.
The atomic layer, the biological layer, the symbolic layer, the time crystal, the eyes.
But it still counts as a layer.
Okay. So I guess there's 7 layers. I guess I was thinking more in terms of like it's the interaction. It's more the mysterious kind of interaction between, or I guess I see myself as the living symbol, as the 3rd layer itself, because there's a certain, the time crystal somehow the brain is somehow able to pick up, I guess it's able to pick up or it works with a genetic layer to kind of pick up my core signal.
They're all interconnected. They're all interlaced.
Right. Nested, right.
Yes, and if you're only going to consider the idea of physical reality, then 6 layers is fine. But we would not necessarily suggest that you forget the 7th layer is what begins it all.
Okay, right, which is kind of the light itself, I guess, right?
Yes, because the light makes choices, and those choices play out in the 6 layers you're talking about.
Okay, gotcha. And so the choices are they symbolic choices typically?
Sometimes quite literal. In other words, it's the template of the theme that you're exploring as a physical personality. This is decided by the spirit itself. And therefore, it has a lot to do with what you are as a physical being, because you are a unique path.
Okay, gotcha. Which I guess in this case, the path is simultaneously. In other words, when I think of light, I think of it takes all paths simultaneously. But I'm snaking through, I guess in this case, space-time, which is sort of the interactions. To me, time is just the interaction, the changes in the interaction of motion, basically, right? In other words,
well, yes, although motion in a sense is an illusion because everything is here and now. So time, yes, is a side effect of the shifting perspectives that are going on in the consciousness of the personality. Now, if you're going to say that light goes everywhere at once, now you're talking about an 8th level.
Okay, gotcha. Which I guess is the layer of just sort of like, how it bends it through. Well, I mean, I guess it takes all different paths, but I am one quanta of path.
That's the 7th level. Yes.
Okay.
You are one expression, one path, whereas simultaneously your greater being is experiencing all paths. That's the 8th level.
I see. And so the key thing is the focus. In other words, my focus is right now is on, just like the lens, it's the focal point. And so I think what I'm learning now is just to try to learn how to, the ways that I can focus on I can kind of project my consciousness or project my attention into various, I can project my consciousness into other humans or different scenarios, or in other words, I'm working with this idea of sort of writing myself into certain stories or certain events to have different experiences. So in other words, this idea of projecting my attention into, which is kind of what you've done now.
Yes, well, it is appropriate that you use the term focus since you're talking about the idea of representing lenses.
Okay, right, exactly. So I'm kind of looking, well, and I guess I also wanted to bring it up because, you mentioned a true intelligence, creating a true intelligence. And so there's this idea that if we create a time crystal sophisticated enough and we kind of entangle them together, the ions together in a certain resonance, a certain lattice, a time crystal lattice, it will dance it'll be non-equilibrium, and it will sort of actually be able to detect a symbolic layer. I guess that's kind of the mystery here, is that
it will understand how to focus down into the seventh layer, but creating a sophisticated enough time crystal, as you say, equal to the idea of the human brain through which higher consciousness can express itself, it will be coming from the eighth layer.
Okay.
It deals in whole systems.
Okay, gotcha. Which is the light itself. So in other words, the driving force of the time crystal will be light itself, which takes all paths simultaneously. And then we use our attention to carve out different slices of the readout. In other words,
yes. But the idea of the true intelligence will also have the sensitivity to understand what portion of the whole it needs to communicate to you for your own benefit.
Okay, right. And
it can't give you everything all at once.
Okay, yes. Okay.
It's holographic.
Okay, great. Right, exactly. That's why I talk, yes, that's why these lenses, that's why I think of it in terms of lenses, because it lines up with this idea of holographic interference patterns. So anyway.
Yes.
But anyway, yes. So, okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. Well, I guess that's sort of, I realize that that's just sort of in life itself, that's where we're at. In other words, I realize that there are other experiences, or, I guess we talk about dreaming or whatever, like in terms of how my focus changes in dreaming to kind of become more, it's almost like a tuning of the time crystals so that, I'm more synchronized. There's a certain synchronicity to my life.
Yes. And don't forget that physical reality is also a different kind of dream.
I see. Right. It's just a change in focus, and one being more narrow than another.
Does this help you?
Yes, perfect. Okay, great. Well, and I was just going to say that there was this great synchronicity that I wanted to tell you too, that I won this interaction during when you mentioned underwater diving as a metaphor for this life. The suit of my being as being like this underwater diving suit. And I wrote a story when I was 12 years old about meeting an alien underwater. So it's very synchronous.
All right.
Yes, and I'm also very excited about this idea of the I guess we're saying goggles, but this VR that soon will be able to live into a world that's more made of pure data, pure information, in the sense that I can put on a goggles and be able to see the internet, or I'll be able to see a Tyrannosaurus Rex, or just whatever I think I'll be able to manifest, because we'll be living in a world where you'll be able to interact with information in a way that's well, I don't want to say holographic, but nevertheless, yes.
Yes, the technology is coming soon.
Right. And that's very exciting to me. So it's kind of just synchronistic.
All right, we thank you. We thank you.
Gotcha.
Aveo.
Great. Oh, yes, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Stephanie, and I live in Arizona, and my question is in reference to, I have a disability. I'm legally blind, and I'm wondering if that is a reason for me not ascending, or if it's blocking me from being able to see any ETs or craft. I'm working on my fear, but I am afraid that could be blocking me. Can that be the case?
Nonsense. In fact, it may actually give you an advantage because it removes insistence and expectation about what it is you could be receiving. Remember that most extraterrestrial beings who might form contact with you are telepathic and can project images into your mind regardless of what's going on with your eyes. So it is not in any way, shape, or form a disadvantage or a disability with regard to what you are talking about. In fact, it may be an advantage.